Good morning. We're grateful to gather both in person and online this morning as the Unitarian Universalist Society for a time of music, inspirational words, reflection, and connection. I'm Peggy Garrigus, Director of Congregational and Community Engagement. My pronouns are she and her. If you're visiting our service today, welcome. We hope you find the service meaningful. If you're visiting online, there should be a link to a visitor form below the video in YouTube if you want to let us know that you have visited today. If you're here in person, I would invite you to either turn off your phone or else both silence it and turn off your Wi-Fi so that it doesn't interfere with either our service or our Wi-Fi network. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't all believe the same things, but we look to 7 principles and a developing 8th principle to guide our lives and actions. One of those principles is justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. This morning, we will celebrate and explore this principle with a focus on living into the practice of compassion. And now over to our worship associate, Kara Beauchamp, for the call together.
Good morning. I'm Kara Beauchamp, a worship associate and member of UUS. My pronouns are she and her. It's wonderful to be with all of you this morning. As we gather, we give thanks for and to the land we sit upon and stand upon, and all who have stewarded this land over the centuries, particularly the nations who lived in interdependence with this land, the Kickapoo, the Iowa, the Sauk, the Meskwaki, and the Sioux nations. As we gather, we know that it is so important to come together as a spiritual community to gain the sustenance that we each need and to help nourish each other. As members of a covenantal faith that expresses our core value of love through how we agree to be together and to support each other, it is good to come together and affirm that this congregation remains strong and connected wherever we are. To affirm that we have faith and hope in this congregation, in each other, and in the ways we continue to grow together during the challenges of life. And to affirm that wherever any of us is on our life's journey, whether we come to worship with joy in our hearts, weighted with burdens, in need of rest, or searching for people to engage in the struggle with us, we are glad. And this community is glad that we are all here. Our call to worship this morning is All That We Share is Sacred by Andre Mull. As we gather together, may we remember, when you share with me what is most important to you, that is where listening begins. When I show you that I hear you, when I say your life matters, that is where compassion begins. When I open the door to greet you, that is where hospitality begins. When I venture out to bring you shelter, that is where love begins. When I risk my comfort to ease your suffering, when I act against hatred, violence, and injustice, that is where courage begins. When we experience the full presence of each other because of our shared humanity, because of our differences, that is where holy gratitude begins. May this space be a table that is not complete until all are welcome. May this table be a space of beauty where together we create a series of miracles and where all that we share is sacred. May it be so. Now, please join in singing our opening hymn, number 298, Wake Now My Senses, The words to this hymn were written by the Reverend Thomas Michelson, who served this congregation from 1971 to 1983. If you are here at UUS, we invite you to sing softly into your mask, to hum or move your hands or body with the music. If you are at home, we hope you'll sing as loudly as you like. So now please rise in body or in spirit.
Hi, everybody. I'm so pleased to be here and sing with you today. I think you know this one pretty well if you're a long-time UU person, so let's give it a go. Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. I quit for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice as a symbol of sanctuary and safety, to unite us in our worship and to remind us of the ongoing search for the light of truth. Please join me in saying our chalice words. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the wonder and mystery of this great gift. So let us now kindle the flame of our liberal religious heritage and renew our covenant of mutual love and care. Love is our doctrine, the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to serve those in need. This we promise, this we covenant with life and one another. We light our candle for justice and healing, to hold a space for our understanding of interdependence, that our liberation is bound up with every other person's liberation, and our feelings of rage and heartbreak over the ongoing pandemics of illness and racism, the devastation of climate chaos, and the waves of trauma washing over the world. We light this candle that we may not be numbed or lost to injustice, devastation, illness, and trauma, but rather find strength, courage, and love together to continue engaging with the struggles for liberation, justice, and healing. We light this candle to help remind ourselves that together we are creating resilience and hope. Today, as we light this candle, we're particularly mindful of all those who are displaced due to flooding or fire, war, or political persecution. After I light this candle, let's hold a time of silence to listen to our hearts and bodies, or perhaps lift up prayers.
Good morning. Our time for all ages today is a little different. We're going to practice our theme for this summer, which has been compassion. You all can sit right there. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. So as I said, we're going to practice our theme of compassion. Hey, Landon. Hey, Jonah. Thank you for coming to join me, friends. I have some volunteers today, and what they're going to do is they're going to come forward, and one at a time they're going to come stand here and show you all an emotion. I'm going to need some help figuring out the different emotions, the feelings that they're showing us, and then some suggestions about how we would interact, how we would be with a person feeling that emotion. Okay? Okay? All right, if my volunteers could come forward and hang out over there. And I need one brave volunteer to be first. Yeah, Riley. Okay, go stand over there. Riley, you're going to come stand right here. Gavin, if you could come with me, we need to guess. Riley, you're perfect. Right where you are. Xander, go stand with your daddy. All right. So if everyone could look at Riley. Riley, if you need to chin your mask to show us your emotion. What?
3, 2, 1.
All right. So what do we think? What emotion was Riley showing us? Scared. That's a great guess. Surprised. Riley, was it scared? Was it surprised? Was it something else? Do they have to keep guessing?
It actually was half of both.
Oh, half of both. Getting tricky. All right, great. So Riley was scared, surprised. What are some ways that we can be with someone who is scared or surprised? You could say, it's okay. That's a great way, especially if they're scared, right? Jonah, did you have an idea too? No, that's okay. Does anybody else? How would we be with someone who's scared or surprised? How would we be with someone scared or surprised? That's okay. All right. Riley, go ahead and chin your mask and you can come join my friends over on the rug. Great job. Thank you for your help. All right, Xander. Yikes. Go ahead and stand right here. Look out at all of our friends. You can chin your mask if you need to. And show them your, wait, no, don't show them your card. Show them with your face. Show them. Oh, what's that emotion? Happy. Do we agree? Was that a happy face? All right, go ahead and put your mask up. If someone came to you and they were happy, what would you do?
Say, why are you happy?
Why are you happy?
Or say, good for you.
Good for you. They're happy about something, right? All right, Xander, you can have a seat. Thank you. All right. Can you go ahead? If you need to chin your mask, go for it. Oh, angry? Do we agree? That looks like a pretty angry face. Angry. All right, how would we be with someone who's angry? Oh, we might get angry too. That would be one way that we might respond. Anger can be contagious. What's something you would do for that person? Hey, Xander, hands. Thank you. What's something we could do for someone who's angry? Ask how you can help. That's a great thing to do for someone angry. Don't you all agree? Yeah, how can we help? Thank you very much. All right. Oh, what emotion do we see? Sad, maybe? Do we have a nervous? What was that? Sad. Do we have some good guesses? Do we need to keep it? What? Nervous and worried. That works. So Alex was showing us worried. What can we do for someone who's worried? Comfort them. Did I hear listen? Awesome. Comfort them. Listen. Find out why Alex is so worried. Thank you. I heard anxious. I heard it from a couple places. Scared? Worried? Oh, what am I hearing now? In a hurry? Confused? Are we getting there, Sally? No, okay. Nervous? Nervous. So that's a lot like our friend Alex who was worried, right? We can comfort them. We can find out what's going on with poor Sally. Thank you. Excited. Friends, what do we do for someone who's excited?
Say good for you.
Good for you. Celebrate with them. Wonderful. Thank you, Rochelle. Oh, I heard from everyone sad. Alan is sad. What do you do for someone who's sad?
Why are you sad? It's going to be okay.
Ask why they're sad. Tell them it's going to be okay. These are great things to do for someone who is sad. Thank you, Alan. Thank you to all of my volunteers and everyone who participated from our group today. You all did a great job showing empathy. Have you heard that word before? No? You know that word? Empathy?
Yeah, I've heard it, but I don't know it.
Okay. Jonah, do you know that word? No? Okay. So you've heard it before, Gavin. Empathy is being able to understand how someone feels. And you all just did that. You looked at the people up here showing emotions with their faces and their bodies, and you knew how they felt. Sometimes we needed to guess a couple of times or ask some questions to find out how they felt, right? Empathy is a gateway. It's a path to compassion, that theme that we were talking about this whole summer. Empathy is understanding how someone feels, trying to imagine how that might feel for you. And it's really a way of being able to relate to that connection between people. Compassion takes that empathy, takes your understanding, and it holds on to it. It accepts it, and it helps you take action. Compassion means we care about others, we treat them with kindness, and we have a strong feeling in us to help people who are in need. Compassion is empathy in action. So great job today, everyone. Thank you all for your help. Now, if all of children and youth would like to come with me, we will head to our RE classes.
Go now in peace, may love guide all your ways. Beauty be the blessing of your night and days. Truth on your lips and kindness in your deeds. Faith to follow where the human spirit leads.
As we enter into our time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer, we acknowledge the joys and sorrows of our congregation. We do this by dropping stones into a bowl of water, symbolically immersing our personal joys and sorrows into the flow of all of life's joys and sorrows. The water surrounds and holds the stone, just as we are surrounded and held by the love and support of this congregation. If you are in the sanctuary, I invite you to come forward, take a stone, and place it in the water. You may also share a joy or sorrow in written form. If you're online, please follow the menti.com link and type in your joy or sorrow. You may want to add your name to your joy or sorrow. If you're in the sanctuary, Reverend Diana has an iPad that you can use to type in your joy or sorrow up here at the front. These joys and sorrows will be shown on the screen while people drop stones in the water. After the stones have been dropped, I will place the last stone in the water for those joys and sorrows that remain in our hearts. So please come forward. May we hold the joys and sorrows of our congregation and the wider community tenderly in our hearts and minds today and in the coming days. When we need a listening ear or heart or a helping hand, may we reach out. And when we know of needs that we may offer in support, and when we know of needs, may we offer support and loving kindness. For it is in sharing our lives, our cares, and our joys, and in giving and receiving that we know community most fully, that we have the opportunity to live our lives in covenant with one another. Amen. Blessed be.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all I rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love.
First, thank you. The first is From Places That Scare You, A Guide to Fearlessness in Difficult Times by Pema Chodron, American Tibetan Buddhist, ordained nun and teacher. Compassion is not a relationship between the healer and the wounded. It's a relationship between equals. Only when we know our own darkness well can we be present with the darkness of others. Compassion becomes real when we recognize our shared humanity. The second reading is from Regarding the Pain of Others by Susan Sontag, American writer, philosopher, and political activist. Compassion is an unstable emotion. It needs to be translated into action, or it withers. The question is what to do with the feelings that have been aroused, the knowledge that has been communicated. If one feels that there is nothing we can do, but who is that we, and nothing they can do either, and who are they, then one starts to get bored, cynical, apathetic. And the third reading, From the Wounded Healer by Henri Nouwen, Dutch-born Catholic priest and psychologist. Let us not underestimate how hard it is to be compassionate. Compassion is hard because it requires the inner disposition to go with others to the place where they are weak, vulnerable, lonely, and broken. But this is not our spontaneous response to suffering. What we desire most to do is to do away with suffering by fleeing from it or finding a quick cure for it. And so, We ignore our greatest gift, which is our ability to enter into solidarity with those who suffer. Those who can sit in silence with their fellow man, not knowing what to say, but knowing that they should be there, can bring new life in a dying heart. Those who are not afraid to hold a hand in gratitude, to shed tears in grief, and to let a sigh of distress arise straight from the heart, can break through paralyzing boundaries and witness the birth of a new fellowship, the fellowship of the broken. I stand before you not as a preacher, though I actually gave that a go a few years ago, and the church and I were better off for my decision, but rather as a teacher with 45 years of classroom experience. And now, since retiring, I have turned to storytelling to get messages across. So I'll start with a story. When I came to the university, the department chair gave me advice about teaching that I remember a half century later. Here's what he said. On the first day I teach any class, I tell the students this: half of what I say is true. Your job is to figure out which half. Now maybe you'd like to try that this morning. Figure out which portion of what you hear is true for you. For my part, I'll strive to do better than the 50% of what I say being considered true. My purpose today is to share ideas about the human response to suffering that we commonly call compassion. What compassion is and how we might practice it. Another story. For months now, NBC's nightly news has bombarded viewers with videos showing the horrible human consequences of world events. Events such as the war in Ukraine, images of fleeing families and couples parting, not sure whether they'd ever see each other again. The famine in several African countries, photos of skeletal children, human trafficking along the Texas-Mexico border, images of families scratching out existence in tents in the desert. All these stories and images play hard on our emotions. We want the suffering to go away. We want the people to have some sense of normalcy restored in their lives. Yet we are many hours and many miles distant from the actual human suffering. We are, in effect, reduced to spectators. And we struggle to imagine how we can do anything more than sit there and feel sympathetic. The readings remind us that there are opportunities for action and costs for not acting. In the third reading, Henri Nouwen points out, quote, what we desire most is to do away with suffering by fleeing from it or finding a quick cure for it. And in so doing, we ignore our greatest gift, our opportunity, which is our ability to enter into solidarity with those who suffer. In the second reading, Susan Sontag reminds us, quotes, compassion is an unstable emotion. It needs to be translated into action or it withers. Doing nothing in response to suffering has a cost and may result in our becoming what Ms. Sontag labels as bored or cynical or apathetic. Is she issuing a warning to us? Then on June 27th, Nightly News reported a very different kind of international story. It was opening day of Wimbledon, the tennis tournament in London. Spectators at court 18 got a surprise as they watched a women's single match between Britain's Jodi Barrage and an opponent from Ukraine wearing a small blue and yellow flag. After the first set, Miss Barrage noticed that a courtside ball boy, the kid who retrieves the balls that are hit into the net, was looking faint. She called for a timeout, went to his side, and talked with him. She raced to a courtside fridge and brought back Gatorade and a sports gel. Ms. Barrage stayed with the boy for about 10 minutes until medical assistance arrived. Then, after earning the loudest ovation of the day, she returned to playing tennis, only to lose the match 6-2, 6-3. The boy recovered shortly. Afterwards, Miss Barrage described for reporters what happened as 3 distinct events. First, quotes, "He just said he was feeling really faint. He couldn't actually talk. It was quite distressing to see." Second, "I've fainted a few times. I actually had a panic attack once in juniors here, so I've been where he is. I kind of know a little bit about how he was feeling." And third, quotes, "Just tried to get him some sugar, gave him a Gatorade and a gel. The gel is not the nicest thing, so they managed to find some Percy Pig's sweets somewhere along the line in the crowd, which he got down and then started to feel better." Ms. Barrage described exactly the 3 elements of a compassionate response to suffering, and in the process becomes a model for our responses. Of course, conditions at Wimbledon were not life-threatening nor long-lasting. That should not detract from the lesson Ms. Barrage teaches us. Compassion combines, first, sympathetic recognition of suffering, quotes, "It was quite distressing to see," and second, identifying with the distress, quotes, "I know how he was feeling," and third, a desire to take action, quotes, "Just tried to give him some sugar." To simplify, compassion can be recalled as a formula: sympathy plus identification plus action. Another story about compassion. Several years ago, I shared weekly morning coffee with a cousin whom I'll call Sophie. The first morning we met, Sophie, who was always neatly dressed and groomed, announced, "I cannot smile," a condition brought on by Parkinson's disease. On another morning, she bolted through the coffee house door, stumbled towards a chair, lunged onto a seat. People offered assistance, but she waved them off, saying, "I'll be all right, just need to rest." And indeed, within a few minutes, Sophie was immersed in our usual spirited conversation. But first, Sophie described what I had just witnessed. With only a few minutes' warning, her left foot balls up and her right foot hyperextends, making walking nearly impossible. She suffers from a neurological disorder called dystonia, secondary to Parkinson's disease. Sophie tells me dystonia attacks occur frequently when she is walking to or from the public library, and always with almost no advanced warning. She often finds herself slumped on the sidewalk, unable to get up. Most observers gawk, but a few sympathetic passers-by offer assistance. Sometimes a police officer escorts her home. At other times, her only source of help is a homeless man. Yes, one of those disheveled, bewhiskered men who beg for handouts, and in those days spent time at the library. Could it be that the homeless man feels compassion? That is, he observes Sophie's struggles and does not turn away. He is able to feel with Sophie, not her dystonia, of course, but being in misery and neglected. And then he takes action, usually sitting with her until she recovers control of her feet. I think of Sophie's story as a 21st century Good Samaritan parable. The story offers 2 lessons. First, it illustrates the 3 components of compassion. Second, the story illustrates an interpersonal relationship based on shared humanity without regard to social position. As with the original Good Samaritan parable, it serves as a memorable response to the question, if we are to love our neighbor, who exactly is our neighbor? Recall the first reading when from Pema Chodron, where we heard, quotes, compassion becomes real when we recognize our shared humanity. Recognizing our shared humanity is not easy to do in a world where differences among humans are accentuated, often through real or imagined competitions. Sharp divides are exploited by public figures such as politicians and comedians. But if we want to practice compassionate responses to those who are suffering, we must shed thoughts about differences and resist the thought that any other person or group of persons is less than we are. Chodron sets a high standard for our being compassionate. Quotes, only when we know our own darkness well can we be present with the darkness of others. Practicing compassion requires introspection into our dark side, our own experiences of suffering. Practicing compassion is universally accepted among world religions and ethical systems as a guiding principle for living a good life. Karen Armstrong, British author on comparative religion, writes, quotes, the principle of compassion lies at the heart of all religious, ethical, and spiritual traditions, calling us always to treat all others as we wish to be treated ourselves. The key phrase is all others, recalling, once again, our shared humanity. Now for some ideas about how to put compassion into practice. Let's listen again to words from Henri Nouwen in the third reading. He was writing about, quotes, the ability to enter into solidarity with those who suffer. Nouwen suggests 4 simple responses to a person who is suffering. Quotes, we sit in silence with our fellow human, not knowing what to say, but knowing that we should be there. We hold a hand in gratitude. We shed tears in grief. We let a sigh of distress arise straight from the heart. There's no manual, guidebook, or recipe for practicing compassion, no hard and fast rules, but I have gleaned some practical suggestions from several sources. 1, see people as individuals, not as abstractions or types. 2, look within the suffering for the human face. 3, be aware of commonalities, signs of our shared humanity. 4, respect your inner hero, heroine. Activate your capacity to make a difference. 5, don't blame others for their misfortunes. 6, don't be a sponge and absorb the other person's feelings. That is certain to paralyze your actions. Another story, one that instructed me about practicing compassion. A friend was wincing from an episode of severe back pain. Wanting to be of some comfort, I said, I know how you feel. To which the friend retorted, no, you don't, and don't say that you do. Lesson learned. Avoid contriving false comments or cliches such as, I feel your pain. Let's return to those international news stories about suffering. Stories that elicit our sympathy, the first step in practicing compassion, but offer no clear action that we may take to reduce the misery. Although we were too distant to complete a compassionate response, we cannot show the person that we identify with their suffering There are ways to offer help we commonly call charitable giving. When our sympathy is aroused by, for example, stories and images of Ukrainian refugees, we can search for charities that may give them relief. We could say that the charitable organization serves as a proxy and offers the person-to-person compassion. As an example, a web search using Ukrainian assistance immediately revealed several well-known charities such as UNICEF USA, Doctors Without Borders, Amnesty International. Our response will require further work rather than a knee-jerk or squeaking wheel response, such as sending money to the first or most popular charity. Before writing a check, I must compare the charities against what I consider the most important outcomes. After I do send such a gift, perhaps I will experience some small satisfaction and forestall apathy or cynicism. As the Dalai Lama tells us, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. No matter how often I attempt compassion, it still feels like practice, as if the struggle to perform compassion, like doing the laundry, is never really over. And that I, like a piano player or a free throw shooter, must continue to practice compassion. Thank you.
How we give, what we do with our lives, our time, and our resources is a reflection of our values. In response to the abundance we are blessed with, every week this congregation donates generously to organizations in the community whose work aligns with our values and our principles. Our community partner, this agency this month, is the Free Medical Clinic. The Free Medical Clinic provides medical, specialty, and basic dental care and prescriptions to those without insurance. Close to 300 volunteers from various disciplines provide thousands of hours of services to the clinic each year, providing patients with quality and compassionate care. On the screen, you will see instructions for how to give online, or you may take this time to write a check and address an envelope to UUS to be put in the mail. If you're attending this service here in the sanctuary, you can give online, or there is a basket for checks in the atrium. An usher can help you find that after the service. You may assist our community partner, contribute to the congregation to provide additional support for operating expenses, or contribute toward your pledge to our society. The offering is a sign of commitment to this free congregation, which is completely supported by the generosity of all who join with us. As we give and receive the offering, may we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts. Nurturing gratitude is how we understand and express interdependence, is part of how we live into our Unitarian Universalist faith. May what has been shared today help us more fully affirm our interconnection and live into love and justice. Immediately after the service today, we will have time to join in conversation and community. Today is a day where we will have a picnic outdoors if you brought something to eat yourself, and there will also be liquid refreshments in the back. If you're online, a link to our Zoom coffee hour is in the service information in the YouTube window, or connection information will be shared in the chat. If you're in person, like I said, we will gather outside. Next week is our in-gathering with a backpack blessing and water ceremony. So you are invited to bring a backpack. People of all ages may bring a backpack to be blessed. And you're also invited to bring water that you gathered somewhere this summer, or some symbolic water that represents something that you did this summer. And now, to close our service today, we will sing hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life. If you are at UUS, please sing softly into your mask, hum, or move your hands and body with the music. If you're at home, please feel free to sing as loudly as you like.
Hi, I'll invite you to rise as you like and join us in this song. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For some needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks for all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. And all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift that we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
You may be seated. Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again. The words for our benediction are by Robert Kaufman. We have come together to share our deepest concerns, speaking and singing words of inspiration and hope. We have committed ourselves to do what we can to ease the burdens of those who suffer, to stand for decency and compassion. We have pledged to work for a more wholesome environment for us and for all generations that will follow. But these are just words. The hymns we sing are just songs. All our reflections are idle thoughts. When we convert them all into loving and responsible action throughout the week, then and only then will this morning become what we want it to be, a time of worship. May it be so.
May we carry this light in ourselves. May we kindle the light in each other. And may we use our light to bring justice in this world. Blessed be, blessed be, blessed be. Yes.